Hey there, welcome to the Breakthrough Creative. I'm your host, John McDavitt, and this is the place where we talk about the business of art and the art of business. And I want to talk a little bit about gratitude, what with it being Thanksgiving here where I am at. And I have a story, and then I have some thoughts on our latitudes, our attitudes, and our gratitudes. I'm not a big one for rhymes and breaking them down, but it seemed to fit today, so I'm going with that. Go with me, okay? So, about 2 or 3 months ago, actually, it goes further back than that, in the summer, I had a couple of people contact me for art classes for their kids. And when I say kids, I'm talking one was 9 years old, and one was middle schooler. Both talented in their own rights, and they show some skill and aptitude for drawing, and they're obviously at different levels. And they would come out to me. We'd meet, and I would bring each of them through a particular focus on that day, and they'd work on it, and then we'd kind of come back around, and it was really cool. Well, the youngest one couldn't make it regularly. There some issues started to pop up with traveling and all, and they were traveling a little bit of a distance to get to me, and so she couldn't finish the class. And I was speaking with the mom, and I said, "Hey, would you be interested in a different option from coming out here?" And this came up for me because I've been trying to figure out ways to make sense of teaching, and by that I mean make sense of teaching from a business standpoint, because I want to teach and I want to help people, but I also need to earn, and I try to be really efficient with my time and my hours, and this is something we should all be looking at in the work that we do. If we're working and it doesn't make sense, I try not to do it. So anyway, so I said to the mom, would you be interested in a possibility of me coming out to teach at your home, and then you don't have to worry about dealing with traffic or with other issues going on in your life? And she said, yeah, that'd be fantastic. So I proposed to her, do you think that there are other students, like other kids, your kids' ages, that might be interested in learning in an art class? And she said, I do. And so this mom, I didn't know what was going to happen. This mom went out and talked to other moms, and all of a sudden I had 7 students. So numbers are starting to make sense, and they wanted to do kind of an anime. Kids like anime now, right? I mean, anime's been around a long time, but I know from my son and younger kids, anime is one of the things. So, I could bring them through. 6 weeks was my plan, and the 6 weeks would entail smiles, eyes and noses, faces, poses, hair, break it down into 6 weeks. Each week would be a different focus. And so these students were all, there was a young one in there, I want to say 3rd grade, but they were mostly 4th, 5th graders. And I knew going in, we're going to spend an hour together. I figured I probably, of that hour, had about a good 20 to 25 minutes where they'll be focused, and we'll be able to work on the task at hand. And then they can draw and be social after, and I can encourage them, and I can draw, and they'll be watching it. So it seemed to make sense. And I'd had a price point of individuals was about $50 an hour, which in the area I live in is fairly, that's probably at the high end. And now I was at 7 students at $25 an hour. So, we're up to 175 for an hour of my time now. And that's much better than 50, right? And so it's an efficient use of time. It makes sense financially. I had about a 30 to 40 minute commute on either side, and there's a little bit of social time, which is good in the midst of it. So it was really about 3 hours of my time. So it's a bit more than $50 an hour, right? But it was about 3 hours of my time. I know a lot of people don't take commutes into consideration when you're talking about work and corporate and all that, but that's how they define it in their rules. I'm looking at all of my time. So I started this class, and a number of things happened in the midst of it that I wasn't expecting. And one of those things was the students, and kids are great. Like, I love working with kids. I've loved my son, the experience of having a son and having him in my life and watching him grow is amazing. And these kids were stellar. Like, they're very creative, and there are some who are a little bit, it's more their thing than the others. And nonetheless, all of them had such amazing and just delightful insights into what they did and how they approach things. And then everybody's got a personality, right? And they were fun. They brought me energy. Pardon me. And so I had this first part of the job that's an intangible, where I'm experiencing relationship in watching these kids develop their skills, but also all their personalities. And it's just a fun time. The other cool thing was moms are in the other room and they're talking. And so I'd talk a bit to the moms beforehand. I'd talk to them afterwards, and they're really cool people. They're really engaging, and I could see why the kids were so cool, and why they had such rich personalities, and it was because the parents were good parents, and they really cared about their kids. And of course they did, because some of them had 2 kids there, and so they're paying $50 for an hour of my time to teach their kids. That's not chump change, right? So there were these amazing things going on in the midst of it. And then I'm able, from a business standpoint, to test this system out for myself. Is this something that I can systemize? Is this something that I can scale? And it was just wonderful. It was this wonderful experience. Here are the things that kind of, even the extra added bonuses. All right. Toward the end of this, I'm starting to airbrush T-shirts again, and I'm getting ready for a big show coming up here locally in Chicago, and I'm really looking to get a ton of orders, and I'll fill you in on all this probably after Christmas, and let you know how it went and how I did the setup and what was successful and what was not. But I get the T-shirts at cost, and a quality T-shirt's about $4, maybe a little less than that for kids' shirts. And so I told the moms, hey, this has been such a wonderful experience. I'm going to airbrush shirts up for the kids. What colors do they like? So I get a name and colors, and now I have an idea of what I'm going to do. And so I airbrush up 7 shirts, and on the back of the shirts, I airbrushed artist with a pencil underneath it. So, what is my cost to do this after this experience? It's $4 a shirt and some time. And I'm trying to get my chops back airbrushing T-shirts. So it's an efficient use of my time. And then I get to give somebody a gift that just adds to the quality of the experience for my students and their parents. So I airbrush these things up, and I go to the house, and I'm not gonna give them at the beginning of class because everybody's gonna be so excited. It'll be crazy. We won't get anything done last class. So I've got those out in the car. Well, I walk in, and turns out all the students have made me cards. And I don't just mean like they just folded it in half and they wrote 2 words. Thoughtful cards with awesome notes, and they drew on them, and their drawings were excellent. And each one has its own personality. And I'm a words of encouragement guy, so really, really awesome stuff that I have. I have got these 7 cards that I just love. I'll treasure them. And we get to the end of the night, and I bring the t-shirts in, and the kids love them. It's just a wonderful night. And then they're all running around playing. I'm talking with the parents. They happen to have some exotic animals there, and so out come the boa constrictors, and I hadn't seen those before, so I'm holding this boa constrictor, and I'm just glad they didn't have tarantulas, because I'd have been out the door. But wonderful, wonderful stuff. Just amazing. All right, what does this have to do with latitude, attitude, and gratitude? Well, let's start with latitude. We are all in different positions in our lives, in our own lives. I'm not talking about comparing to anybody else, although I don't know how you can't, right? Because we all do that. And as artists, designers, writers, whatever it is our practice is, we're at some place creatively in our life. And if you're watching this show, I suspect you're watching it because you're interested in the business of art, right? And the art of business. And so you're at some level in your business. And I am too. You know, I'm at a certain level of mastery in my craft after all these years. And then going back to airbrushing, I haven't airbrushed regularly in decades. You know, I'm still competent at it, but my chops are I got to work on my chops. Like, there's certain things that if you don't do something every day, you just don't have the same kind of skills as you did before, right? The same goes for shooting free throws, same goes for sports, it goes for anything. It's just the way it is. So, you know, I'm getting my chops back airbrushing t-shirts, and I'm excited about this opportunity that's coming up business-wise for the airbrushing. And I'm doing it with my wife and my son. So, you know, my wife and I are collaborating in a different way for the first time in a while. And my son is going to be a part of it, and he's already thinking like a business person and an entrepreneur. And so we have this next thing to do together. And anyway, the latitude in my life it's a little bit lower than it's been business-wise in the past. And that's because I got into ministry, and I'm pastoring a church, and I made sacrifices to do that. And when you look at ministry, I mean, ministry in general, you're putting in more than you're getting out of it. And that's fine. That's what you sign up for. And I love that. But there's a cost too on another end. And for me, the cost came in business and finances. And I had a major client that went away in the midst of this because they kept getting sold. And at some point, you don't know the management anymore, and they don't know you, and people are trying to cut costs. And anyway, so your latitude in life is going to vary, and we're always going to have highs and lows. And believe me, when one part of your life is high, there's middling parts, and then there's going to be some challenges, right? Take a look at your own life. It's probably you've experienced that, or you're experienced that, and I'm sure you agree. And you know, I look at a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was in the middle of COVID, and I mean, nothing else mattered except getting better. And it's amazing how that changes things. And when you come out of that, you know, you see a flower, you see your son clearly for the first time in a while, and you're like through the roof. It's like you won $1 million, and life is fantastic. And your latitude may be down here, but your attitude is way up. So let me swing into attitude, because I think that's going to inform latitude a little bit better. Our attitudes impact everything. We can be the richest person in the world and have terrible attitudes and be unhappy and things aren't right, or you're a perfectionist and things aren't right. And even though you've got this beautiful piece of work in front of you and your client is thrilled, you are extraordinarily dissatisfied. And don't get me wrong, I think as far as a craftsman, a craftsperson, and an artist, there are standards we need to hold ourselves to. And I think those standards should be very high based on what our focus is. And we're shooting to attain a level of mastery, right? And we're living a life. And at some point, you gotta live your life and go, okay, this was pretty good here. You don't want to be haunted by your excellence not being perfect, because that's a crummy way to live, and it's going to impact your attitude. When I started teaching these students all together, my attitude was really good, but it increased, like my attitude got better because I get to go and see these parents and their kids and lead their kids through something that they're excited about. And I have some of the students in particular like, how do you do this? And this doesn't look good. And I'm able to encourage them. And it just really impacted me in a way that just filled me up. It filled my heart up, that I'm getting to pour into them like I've had people pour into me. I'm getting to help and serve, and I mean, it's just wonderful. So it's really, really important to have a good attitude, whether we're at the top of our game and everything's going well, we're in the middle somewhere, or we're in a valley. And maybe especially when you're in the valley, your attitude needs to be good, because if I'm not saying you can't go to places where you're like, this is awful and this is terrible, and you can take some time to mourn and grieve something, but you got to find a way to see the bright side of things, because if you don't, I don't know how I don't know how to get out of that stuff otherwise. And we all need help at times, right? And that help may be counseling or doctors or just an ear to listen to you, or family. So we need to be wise and figure out, I'm really alone in this. I don't want to be alone in this because it's not good. And you go find some resources that are going to help you out, right? It's like if you think of being at your highest, you're living on top of a mountain in this beautiful building, and then something happens, and all of a sudden it's not there anymore. It's too cold up there, and you got to go all the way down into the valley, and you're in this valley, and while you're in the valley, you fall into a pit, and you need a hand up. Okay, you need a hand up, and you're waiting for somebody to come along, and they help you, and they lift you up, and then that's the idea, is you keep lifting each other up, and so we need help at times, but our attitudes are so incredibly important in the midst of that. And I know it's easier said than done for many of us, and everybody has their own struggles, but I want to point it out as an important cog in our daily lives. And then the last thing I want to focus on, latitude to attitude gets to gratitude. I am so grateful that I got to teach these kids. I'm so grateful that the financial and business efficiency of it was tested, and it tested well. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything with it beyond this, but I wanted to try something. I'm grateful that I have the opportunities to try these things. I'm grateful for the parents that I got to know on a more personal level, but I'm grateful for the opportunity that they had me in. And we were able to have such a great experience all around. And I'm grateful that I'm an artist, that I'm a creator, and that I've been independent for years and able to be so, and able to work with so many different clients who've become, many of whom have become friends. Not everyone, and not everyone is great, and I'm sure that not everyone thinks I'm great. I'm absolutely positive that that is the truth, but that's okay, because I've got enough great experiences in the midst of all this just to be over the moon. Just such good stuff. So gratitude is such an important thing when wherever we're at in our latitudes, and hopefully we're working on good attitudes, and then we're able to take time, and it's wise to do this daily or at least weekly. If things are rough, if you're feeling like you're behind, if you're feeling like you've been left behind, to take some time and make a mental list or a physical list of things to be grateful for. So that's my take on being thankful and grateful this Thanksgiving. And I am so grateful for you taking the time to watch the content that I put up or listen to it. I am grateful to my guests. I'm grateful for so many of my guests who are friends who've come on to be interviewed and share their insights and their experiences. And I'm grateful for the new friends I've made. Some of the people I've interviewed have become close friends, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you guys. And I'm grateful when I hear from you, my audience, whether it's an encouragement or a question. And I hope that wherever you're at, you're living your best life, or you're working toward that, and you're able to see the things to be grateful for in your creative life, as well as in your business life and your personal life, because those are important things. And I would say the personal and creative are probably even more important than the business, which is funny to say that on a business show, but I've experienced that. The business is important. We all need to live. We all need all that, right? But the personal and the creative trumpet. Not trumpet like a horn, but trumpet like a card going over another card and winning the hand. Okay? All right. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, my friends. I'm grateful for you all, and I hope that you are getting busy about the business of growing your creative business, whatever that means. Okay? I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.